Picture this. You're sitting at home. Nothing special is happening. Maybe you're a little bored. Maybe you had a rough day. Maybe you're just scrolling. And then you see it. A product, a deal, a limited time offer, and something in your brain just clicks. You tell yourself it's practical. You tell yourself you needed it anyway. You tell yourself it's on sale, so it would actually be wasteful not to buy it. So you buy it, and then 3 weeks later, it's sitting in a corner, or still in the box, or you've completely forgotten it exists. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you know this has happened before, multiple times, with different things. And you keep asking yourself the same question. Why do I keep doing this? The answer isn't that you're irresponsible. It isn't that you're bad with money. The answer is that you're being pulled by psychological systems that were specifically designed to make you spend. And nobody ever taught you how they work. In this video, we're going to change that. I'm going to show you exactly what's happening in your brain when you impulse buy. And then I'm going to give you a simple system to stop it without relying on willpower. My name is Siva, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people buy things they don't need. If that sounds familiar, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Let's get into it. Okay, let's start with the science. Because once you understand what's actually happening in your brain during an impulse purchase, everything makes a lot more sense. When you see something you want to buy, your brain releases dopamine. Not when you receive the item, when you see it. The anticipation of getting something triggers the same reward system as actually getting it, which means the act of browsing, scrolling, adding things to cart, that entire process feels genuinely good. Your brain is getting a chemical reward just from the consideration of buying. And here's what most people don't realize, that dopamine hit peaks at the moment of decision. The moment you click buy now, and then it drops fast. Which is why so many purchases feel exciting for about 5 minutes and completely unremarkable after that. The brain already got its reward. The product itself almost doesn't matter. This is not a personal failure. This is biology. Your brain was not designed for a world with one-click purchasing, same-day delivery, and infinitely scrollable shopping feeds. It was designed for a world where getting things required real effort. The friction was the protection, and modern commerce has systematically removed all of it. Now, here's where it gets more interesting. Because impulse buying is almost never really about the product. Behavioral researchers have found that the 3 biggest triggers for impulse spending are stress, boredom, and the need for a sense of control. Think about stress first. When you're overwhelmed, anxious, or emotionally drained, your brain looks for a quick way to feel better. And buying something gives you an immediate sense of agency. I made a decision. I chose something. I rewarded myself. It's a coping mechanism. A fast, frictionless, socially acceptable coping mechanism. Boredom works similarly. When you're understimulated, scrolling a shopping app provides novelty. Each product is a small hit of new. Your brain doesn't want the product, it wants the stimulation of discovering it. And the need for control is the sneaky one. When life feels uncertain or chaotic, work is stressful, the future feels unclear. Buying something gives you a small zone of control. I decided this, I own this, it's mine. Psychologists call this retail therapy for a reason. It genuinely works as a mood regulator, just a very expensive one. The point is this, most impulse purchases are emotional decisions disguised as practical ones. And because they're emotional, telling yourself to just stop doesn't work. You can't out-discipline a dopamine response. You need a system. So here's the system, 3 parts. Simple to set up, and it works because it works with your psychology instead of against it. Part 1. The 48-hour rule. This is the single most effective impulse control tool I've found. And it's almost embarrassingly simple. Any non-essential purchase gets a mandatory 48-hour wait, not forever, just 48 hours. You're not saying no, you're saying not yet. Here's why this works so well. Remember that dopamine spike at the moment of discovery? It fades fast. Within 48 hours, the emotional charge behind most impulse purchases drops significantly. The thing that felt urgent and exciting on Tuesday, now it usually just feels like a thing on Thursday morning. Sometimes you still want it, often you don't. And now you're making the decision with a calmer brain instead of a dopamine-flooded one. The key is removing the buy now option temporarily. Don't add it to cart and stare at it. Write it on the list instead. A what list? Physical or digital? Just the name of the item and the date you wrote it down. Then leave it alone for 48 hours. If after 48 hours you still want it and can genuinely afford it, buy it without guilt. The system isn't about deprivation. It's about making sure the decision is yours and not your dopamine's. Part 2. Ask the real question. Most people ask the wrong question before buying something. They ask, can I afford this? That's the wrong question, because the answer to can I afford this is almost always technically yes. You have the money, the card works, the purchase goes through. Affordability isn't the problem. The right question is, am I buying this because I actually want this thing? Or am I buying this because of how I feel right now? That one question asked honestly, changes everything. Because it forces your brain out of the emotional state and into the observational one. You're no longer just feeling the pull of the purchase, you're examining it, and examined impulses lose most of their power. A simple way to make this automatic is to create a tiny pause before any purchase, even 10 seconds. Take a breath, ask the question. You don't need a long internal debate, just a moment of honest observation. Most of the time, that's enough. Part 3. Fix the trigger, not the symptom. This is the part most people skip, and it's the most important one. If you keep impulse spending when you're stressed, the real problem isn't spending, it's unmanaged stress. If you impulse spend when you're bored, the real problem isn't spending, it's boredom. Cutting off the spending without addressing the underlying trigger just means the trigger finds a different outlet. So here's what you do. For 2 weeks, every time you feel the urge to buy something impulsively, write down what you were feeling right before it. Not what you wanted to buy, what you were feeling: stressed, bored, anxious, tired, lonely, just the feeling. After 2 weeks, patterns will appear. Maybe you always spend after work. Maybe it's always when you're procrastinating something. Maybe it's always late at night when you can't sleep. Once you see the pattern, you can create a replacement behavior for that specific trigger. A 10-minute walk for post-work stress. A book or a show for late-night boredom. A free activity that hits the same novelty button without hitting your bank account. You're not trying to become someone who never wants things. You're trying to stop the automatic pipeline between feeling bad and spending money. Let me give you a quick picture of what this looks like in practice. Say it's a Wednesday night. You had a long day. You're on your phone and you see a jacket. It looks great. It's on sale. Your brain is already writing the justification. You need a jacket. It's a good deal. You deserve it. Old version of you clicks by now. Dopamine spike. Done. New version of you writes, jacket on the want list with today's date. Puts the phone down. Maybe it goes for a short walk because you noticed. You always spend when you're stressed after work. Thursday morning, you look at the list. The urgency is gone. You either decide it's genuinely worth it and buy it calmly, or you don't. Either way, the decision was yours. That's the system, not restriction. Just a small amount of intentional friction placed between the feeling and the action. Here's what most people don't realize about impulse spending. The issue isn't individual purchases, it's the pattern. $130 impulse buy is nothing, but 3 or 4 per week across a year is anywhere from $4,000 to $6,000, quietly, without you ever feeling like you made one big financial mistake. Just 1,000 small ones that added up. And most of that money didn't buy you happiness. It bought you a temporary feeling that lasted about as long as the dopamine spike that triggered it. The 48-hour rule, asking the real question and fixing the underlying trigger, won't make you a robot who never buys anything fun. It'll just make sure that when you spend money, it's actual your decision, not your stress's decision, not your boredom's decision, not a social media algorithm's decision, yours. So to bring this together, you keep buying things you don't need because your brain is wired for a reward system that modern commerce has learned to exploit perfectly. The urge isn't a character flaw. It's a biological response to a design trigger. The fix isn't discipline. It's a system. The 48-hour wait removes the emotional charge from the decision. The real question forces honest self-awareness, and identifying your triggers lets you fix the actual problem instead of just fighting the symptom forever. Because here's the truth. Every time you impulse buy to feel better, you feel better for a few minutes and worse for a few weeks. Every time you pause, observe, and choose intentionally, you build something more valuable than whatever was in that shopping cart. You build proof that you're in control of your money, not the other way around. If this video helped you understand why you spend the way you do, hit the subscribe button. And I'm curious, what's your biggest impulse spending trigger? Stress, boredom, or something else? Let me know in the comments, because the first step to fixing it is knowing what it actually is.